Bitcoin, the coin who lived. I'm going to make this video to explain why I think it's a very bad idea to sell your Bitcoin at this stage, and to give you a little bit of hope about what's coming around the corner. Now, it's of my belief that we are on the precipice of a massive bull run, and I don't think that's particularly controversial, considering that the primary reason why there are massive bull cycles to begin with is simply because there's a thing called the halving event, which you may have heard of. The reward for Bitcoin mining goes down by half, causing a supply shock, and then around a year afterwards, there's a really large bull run that goes parabolic, and then it eventually becomes a bubble, it pops, it goes into a bear market for a year, and the cycle goes on and on and on, just like that. So a bull run is not really out of the question, but a lot of people are still freaking out, and one of the reasons why people are freaking out is because of an interesting thing that just continues to happen, and I don't blame anyone. This has happened to me many times, where you look at these long cyclical events, but then you look at something, maybe it's some kind of exogenous factor, and you say, oh, well, this time is different. And we've all made that mistake. I've said that many times, but the longer that I've been in Bitcoin, the longer I can say that some things just don't really change. And I want to explain to you, look, right now, Bitcoin is hovering around 60K, like 58K or whatever, and it's down from like 72K, but what was it this time last year? It had to have been like 30K or something like that, I think, at most. So, we've already hit all-time highs very prematurely, which is very unbelievable. But I want to talk about all the things that Bitcoin has survived, right? It's survived a lot of crazy stuff so far, and it's only at 60K. It hasn't, the market hasn't collapsed. If it was going to collapse, it should have done so already, and I want to explain a few things, give you a bit of a market recap. But first, if you like this channel, make sure to subscribe to my channel. I give daily no-nonsense updates about crypto, and I specialize in something called debanking. That's using your cryptocurrency as a means of replacement for the traditional financial system. So using it to receive payments, using it to buy and sell things, using it to buy everyday items. You can use my videos as like a bit of a tutorial guide on how to actually live in Bitcoin and not just use it as a speculative instrument. So let's get into the video. So what I've got for you is a number of different examples. Sorry, I was looking at something else. Of basically what's being why Bitcoin should have already gone belly up. This is not in order, but as you can see here, first one, German government finally holds 0 Bitcoin. They sold 3,846 Bitcoin, which is an enormous amount of money. And if you're wondering, by the way, just as a bit of a backstory, why do governments own so much Bitcoin in the first place if they're not buying it? Frequently, it comes from cracking down on illegal industries. So if there's a drug bust, if they've cracked down on some kind of criminal syndicate, these syndicates will often own their funds in Bitcoin, like a smart criminal would. And the government is able to appropriate this, and they don't really do much with it because they don't really have any regulations regarding it. It's just sitting there. But it looks like, the German government's decided to just sell it, right? Now, this is a huge dumping thing that the market just quickly ate up. It didn't really have a huge impact. Although the price is lower than before, it's in combination with a number of other pretty serious factors. But look at this. Germany has now liquidated all the Bitcoin it had bought during the seized assets auction. The last operation of 3,846 Bitcoin was made on July 12. This concluded a sequence of operations that have impacted the market in the last few days. That's interesting because I actually believe they probably had more, and this is just like, the last tranche, if you will, that they sold. And so yeah, it's $223 million of outflows. Yeah, and now they have no more. Then the next one is the Mt. Gox thing. This is a really big deal because it's been prophesized for a long time that one day when Mt. Gox eventually repays all of its customers, there'd be such a huge dump that would ultimately annihilate the market. And this is a thing that's being prophesized, ever since this whole event happened, right? the assumption was that the moment that people would start getting their funds back, they would just sell it. And eventually, it's almost like, their hand got bit, they learned their lesson, and they're going to get out of the market, right? But the irony is, because since that time, which was a long time ago, the price of Bitcoin had just continued to rise and rise. Now that those people were essentially forced hodlers, right? So even though they hadn't received their funds back, the promise that, or the possibility of them getting their funds back, has basically made them not so keen on selling, right? Because they can see that Bitcoin has gone up by so much, and many of these people are instantly millionaires, right? So that time has finally come, and all those people have essentially gotten their money back. But it's not so simple to just dump a bunch of money on the market, right? So all these people who had Bitcoin this whole time, but it's been a really long time since they held that much. They've now got to, set up taxes. They've got to do all this stuff. It's complicated to just sell like millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin if you got it. Ultimately, these people look like they're just holding on to it. So even though Mt. Gox transferred all these funds to the wallets of the owners of the hacked Bitcoin, it's not clear that these people are actually selling. It seems that most people have decided to just keep holding on to the Bitcoin. I guess with the assumption that the price is going to continue to go up. And I think these guys, because they've been forced hodlers for like 10 years, I think it's done something to their brain, and they just decided that even if they got the Bitcoin again, that it's not worth selling. So amazingly enough, even though all these funds have been returned back to the sellers, there hasn't been like a huge amount of Bitcoin that's just been dumped on the spot exchange, more than usual. But it's over now. Like we were awaiting some huge apocalyptic event to happen in Bitcoin, like everyone's been talking about for a long time. But Mt. Gox is essentially, I think it's basically paid off its last $2 billion. So that's the end of that. It's you're not really going to hear about it anymore. It's going to be memory hold in about 2 seconds. Because, yeah, I mean, Bitcoin is still, way up, and again, if you've got the memory of a goldfish, then Bitcoin's way down because, it went down from 72K from its all-time high, which it hit just a couple of months ago. But, it's still really high. It hasn't really done that much. Next thing I want to talk about are ETF outflows. Now, Bitcoin ETFs and Ethereum ETFs as of recent have come out, and it's been quite a boon for Bitcoin in general. You've got BlackRock and a bunch of others that have started to buy Bitcoin, which is really a big deal. But one thing that you're going to notice on this chart, which is quite surprising, is the fact that one of the OGs of institutional Bitcoin holders, which is what's it called, Grayscale. So I'm just cleaning this up. Grayscale has embarked on this huge dumping spree ever since the ETFs have come out. Now, it's just something that doesn't really make sense. A lot of people have tried to understand why Grayscale has been dumping so hard. I don't really make much sense of it. I think some people think it's got to do with the fact that they're exposed to BlockFi and some of these these things that have just gone under recently. Like I think Nexo, BlockFi, they owe like tons of money to them. I think, I don't know exactly what it was, but Grayscale had a bunch of exposure, and I think they were forced to sell off a bunch of Bitcoin in order to be able to pay off its debtors or something like that. So there was a huge outflow, and of course the inflows, but here's the thing, the inflows still beat the outflows. Sorry, this is just July/August, but going back towards the very beginning, the inflows from the likes of BlackRock have massively compensated for the fact that Grayscale has just been selling and selling and selling to the tune of billions, right? So look at this outflow, and this is just for the July/August time, right? This gray area, this is Grayscale, this is these outflows. It's massive, right? But despite that, BlackRock has still been buying, Fidelity has still been buying. I mean, those are the two main ones. The other ones are less relevant. But yeah, BlackRock and Fidelity have just been on a buying spree, and it's bare minimum kept up with the amount of outflow by Grayscale. And you've got to understand, like, Grayscale can't keep selling forever. It was one of the largest owners of institutional Bitcoin out there, but they can't keep selling. Like, I don't know what they're up to now, but I mean, they've got to be down to like way less than 50% of Bitcoin, right? And is it clear that they're going to sell every last Bitcoin? The more that they sell, the more likely it is day by day that they're going to stop at some stage, right? Like it'd be weird for them to completely get rid of their whole holdings. Even if they did, their numbers coming up. They can't keep selling forever. And despite them selling at the rate they've been selling, other people have just been buying, and it hasn't tanked the market like you would expect. Now, I can't say the same for Ethereum. The Ethereum spot ETFs have been a little bit of a massacre. Again, Grayscale has been selling their Ethereum like crazy. Look at these outflows compared to inflows, and this is part of the reason why when the ETH ETFs came out, Ethereum price has just been really underperforming compared to what other people thought they would. But the thing is I mean, it hasn't really completely been an apocalypse for Ethereum, and they only have so much Ethereum to sell. But regardless, at least for Bitcoin, it hasn't been as bad as it should be, despite all these things. Oh, sorry, that's not what I wanted to show you. And one of the last things I want to show you is what's been going on with this Japanese carry trade. So the thing that's tanked the market most recently, the stock market and the crypto market, is the fact that there's this thing called the Japanese carry trade. So I'll explain it for those of you that haven't heard it. What it is essentially is that in Japan you had 0% to extremely low interest rates, allowing people to borrow money for incredibly cheap. What they would do is they'd take all this borrowed money that they got very cheap, and then they went to US stock markets and they bought tech stocks, they bought treasury bonds or something like that, they bought all these other things, even just putting it into a bank account where it would get a couple of percentage points. And also they were buying crypto as well, from what I understand, right? They were exposed to everything, and they were doing what you'd call essentially just an interest arbitrage, right? But people are noticing the fact in Japan that inflation is going up, and everyone's like, what's going on? So the central bank has decided to start increasing interest rates, ultimately folding in that carry trade. And a lot of those people that were involved in this trade had to start selling off their tech stocks and start pulling funds out of the United States and putting it back into the Japanese yen. But this has caused a massive sell-off for crypto and stocks. And this is, again, I've heard about this carry trade for a long time. I read a lot of Arthur Hayes articles, and he's been going on about this for a really long time. And it's bad. It definitely tanked the stock market. And I mean, we saw Bitcoin go all the way down to 48K at a stage. It just wicked down there. But it was a really big sell-off. And compared to the other things hardly had an impact compared to the unwinding of this carry trade. Despite that, we're hovering around 60K, and it's survived a lot of it. And the most important thing is that JP Morgan says carry trade unraveling is only half complete. Now, this is an old article, more or less. This is August 6th, so this was 10 days ago, and they have been unwinding constantly since then. And amazingly, I mean, it's probably got to be, at least 70% complete. So the extreme market dumping has probably ended, right? And whatever continuing bear action that we're seeing is probably people continuing to price in what they consider more of a downtrend, right? But it might not actually be the case that there's any real downtrend to be had. So there's a good chance that, that this thing is mainly over, and we could just get like a big wick up as these shorts get liquidated, because it's not really based on any real bearish indication going on right now. And yeah, so the point that I want to make is that in the past, 2 months, we've seen Bitcoin go through so much. There's been so much selling activity. There's been a lot of very serious exogenous factors that should have absolutely tanked Bitcoin, but Bitcoin is just still around. I think it's too hard to wreck Bitcoin. I think particularly at this stage of the bull cycle, we're still in the fairly early stages of it. I think next year is going to be a very big year, and I think all the things that have happened are just not enough to completely end what's coming. And on one final note, I want to quickly just talk about one of the really big bullish factors was the fact that when when Biden had that really disastrous debate with Trump on Polymarket, which is kind of like a betting market on crypto, a lot of people started to believe that, you know, Trump was going to become president, which they believed to be a better option in regards to crypto. That pumped the price of crypto up a little bit. Then the second thing that happened was, after the attempted assassination, the bullish sentiment massively increased, and the price of Bitcoin went up so high because around that same time, Trump was slated to speak at this huge Bitcoin event in Nashville, where he was rumored to announce that Bitcoin was going to become a strategic reserve asset. So the price of Bitcoin became very much tied to politics at this stage, and the belief that a possible Trump presidency was on the horizon due to his massive polling numbers was enough to pump the price of Bitcoin. Now, what's happened since then is that Biden is going to step down and Kamala Harris is going to take her place. And at this stage, it looks like the polling numbers are like more even. It's almost like the events of recent past have been memory hold. And I think the advantage that Trump had isn't as much as it was before. And as a result, I think the people that were speculating on that have ultimately decided to pull out their bets, and Bitcoin has kind of lost that original speculative advantage. However, one thing that we're going to see is that it's very likely that Kamala Harris is going to turn pro-Bitcoin as well. And I think some of her advisors are recommending that she starts to have at least a more pro-Bitcoin stance than Joe Biden had. And as a result, if this happens, the bullish sentiment that we had because of Trump will eventually just be relived through Kamala Harris. And as a result, I think that this is something that's also worth noting, right? Now, but the other thing is as well is, as far as like the disastrous, almost apocalyptic exogenous factors that could have absolutely nuked Bitcoin into hell, was the fact that if Trump did actually get assassinated, it would have been such incredible turmoil for the country. Everything would have tanked. The stock market would have tanked. And of course, crypto would have just been absolutely annihilated. So had the bullet just been slightly more towards center, and he would have died from a head wound, crypto would have absolutely cratered. It would have been over for crypto. I mean, at least for the foreseeable future, until maybe things become more stable. The fact that Trump survived and we basically avoided a civil war is pretty much miraculous, at least from a Bitcoin perspective, if you wanted to look at it purely from that perspective. So Bitcoin has survived. It keeps surviving. These past 2 months have been wild for Bitcoin, simply because it hasn't been worse. I mean, everyone has been awaiting for a massive pull down since we hit 72K in March. And we did have some drawdowns. You know, we did go down to 50K, but then we went up to 70K again. Then we went down to 60 again. Then we went up to 70K. And we've just been consolidating. Like, there hasn't been this massive pullback that everyone's been expecting. So that's why I dub Bitcoin the coin that lived. So yeah, so thanks a lot for watching, guys. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you're interested in these no nonsense updates about crypto. And if you want to get advice about how to do debanking, check out some of my other videos. I've got a lot of great videos on how to do things like how to buy food with Bitcoin, you know, how to receive payments from your boss in crypto, how to do all these things in crypto, how to essentially replace your normal banking activities with Bitcoin. A lot of people are waiting for some prophesized event where Lord Satoshi is going to come down from heaven, and there's going to be total Bitcoin adoption. You can eventually buy your soy latte with Bitcoin. Not soy latte, your raw milk latte with Bitcoin, whatever it is you want. And after that, the prophecy will be fulfilled. The reality is you don't have to wait for that time. You already have a lot of various things available to you to make that a reality. If you want to buy Bitcoin with a latte, if you want to buy a latte with Bitcoin, you can technically already do that. Check out some of my videos, and in a lot of my videos, I explained that the biggest tool that you have in order to be able to do that is using peer-to-peer cryptocurrency exchanges, because one of the advantages on there is that you can use practically any payment method you could imagine to buy and sell cryptocurrency. So on a place like this, you can theoretically buy and sell cryptocurrency with cash. So if you've got a direct line from Bitcoin to cash, you can use the cash to buy a latte, no problem. You could also use it to buy gift cards, like Amazon gift cards, to go buy food, right? You can do all kinds of different things. Maybe you decide as well that you want to sell Bitcoin for just to make a bit of extra cash, because you see there's a lot of people on these exchanges that want to buy cryptocurrency without KYC. That's one of the other big sell points for these P2P cryptocurrency exchanges. And that usually means that they're willing to buy above market rate. So if you're willing to provide this kind of service, selling crypto via a P2P exchange without KYC, you can charge above market rate, and you can actually make money in this world. You know, you essentially doing an arbitrage, right? You sell Bitcoin, 5% above market rate for some guy who wants it via PayPal, Wise, Payoneer, Revolut, whatever. And then once you've got those funds, I guess you would put it back into your bank account. You put it from your bank account back into a normal centralized exchange where, using the spot market, you could buy back into Bitcoin pretty much for 0%, because you buy it on spot on a high liquidity central exchange. And then you're ready to sell it again to the next willing buyer on this P2P exchange, right? So that's a way that you can make money doing it. I think it's a very good way of making money in crypto that isn't a scam. It's nothing dodgy. There's no gambling, risk-on activity like what's usually recommended by other crypto channels, wanting you to get into all kinds of shit coins, do derivatives trading, all that crap. This is a very honest to God business that helps a lot of people in the community. So I recommend you use my referral links in the description down below. Check them out. You can use Local's CoinSwap. You can use HODL. Those are two great exchanges that are non-custodial and they don't require KYC. And you can use practically any payment method you can think of. And then you can also use BitValve and BitPapa. These are two exchanges where you can do a similar thing, but with Monero, right? So if you're into P2P Monero trading, you can use BitPapa or you can use BitValve. I think they're like the last two places where you can actually trade Monero via P2P. So check out my referral links in the description down below, and I'll see you next time.